PeleʻAilaʻAu e kupuna hoʻi he kupuna kahiko o ke ahi malamalama e malama kākoe me ka oia I ono ka moʻolelo o Pele ka wahine o ke ahi e ola ka inoa o Pele o PeleʻAilaʻAu he kupuna o ie he kupuna kahiko o ke ahi malamalama e malama kākoe me ka oia I ono ka moʻolelo o Pele ka wahine o ke ahi e ola ka inoa o Pele o ke kahu mua o Pele ka ohi a kumakua kui ke alo o Pele o ʻAILAʻAU o ie ulu me ka mahie ke AHILAPALAPA o Pele hie ka lehua hopoe haena me ka maha lama e ola ka inoa o Pele ke kahu mua o Pele ka ohi a kumakua kui ke alo o Pele o ʻAILAʻAU hoʻie ulu me ka mahie ke AHILAPALAPA o Pele hie ka lehua hopoe haena me ka lama e ola ka inoa o Pele e lua mau kahu a Pele me ke kule ana e malama o ke AHILAPALAPA lapalapa I ke ahi a me na ʻŌPØUKUUKU hoʻokahi kupuna o ke ahi o Hawaiʻi kahiko o PeleʻAilaʻAu o ka pono a me ka pololei e ola ka inoa o Pele e lua mau ka hua Pele me ke kule ana e malama o ke AHILAPALAPA I ke ahi a me na ʻŌPØUKUUKU hoʻokahi kupuna o ke ahi o Hawaiʻi kahiko o PeleʻAilaʻAu o ka pono a me ka pololei e ola ka inoa o Pele e ola ka inoa o Pele e ola ka inoa o Pele So, why is this song important? Well, first of all, it's a wonderful and a beautiful story. But secondly, it speaks about our lesson today using the words ʻaʻohe, ʻehia, and numbers, class, less, possessives. So first, let's get to the mana'o, o keia mele, the mo'o'olelo, and the thought. It says, o PeleʻAilaʻAu he kupuna Hawaii ho'ie. That PeleʻAilaʻAu is an ancestor of Hawaii. He kupuna ka hiko hiko o ke ahi ma lama lama. That she is an ancient ancestor of the glowing fires ke ahi ma lama lama. E ma lama kākou. We should honor, respect, and take care. Me ka oia I ono, truly with truth. Ka moʻoʻolelo o Pele, the history, the stories of Pele. Ka wahine o ke ahi, the woman of the fires. E ola ka inoa o Pele, long live the name of Pele. The second verse, and there are only 3 verses, Paukuʻelua, second verse. O ke kahu mua o Pele, ka ohi a kumākua. So the first kahu, caretaker, of all the things associated with Pele, the ohia that stood as a parent for Pele, the one that stood, kuʻikealo, that stood in the presence of Pele, o ʻAILAʻAU hoʻie, was her first kahu that was named ʻAILAʻAU. Ulu me ka māhiehie, growing with beauty, dignity, and regalness, ke AHILAPALAPA o Pele, the blazing fires of Pele. Hiehie ka lehua hōpoe, beautiful lehua blossoms, full-formed, round lehua blossoms. Ha'ena, glowing with redness, me ka mālama, with brilliance. Finally, the third verse says, E lua mau kahu a Pele, which comes into today's lesson about numbers and possessives. E lua mau kahu a Pele. Pele has 2 kahu. 2 kahu. 2 people that are in charge of the prayers, the rituals, the ceremonies, and everything that has to do with the caretakership of Pele. She has 2. Meke kuleana, with this birthright, this inheritance to take care of Pele. O ke ahi lapalapa, lapalapa I ke ahi. One was called the AHILAPALAPA, the blazing fires that blaze, that lapalapa. The lapalapa were the guards or the guardians, and of course their embers were blazing, lapalapa I ke ahi. Ame na ʻŌPØUKUUKU, and the opu, the stomachs, uku, of very small or no consequence or no importance. Ho'okahi kupuna o ke ahi, the fires. Ho'okahi kupuna o ke ahi o Hawaii ka hiko. So ancient Hawaii has only one goddess or one akua of fires. Ka hiko PeleʻAilaʻAu, and that ancient goddess is PeleʻAilaʻAu. O ka pono a me ka pololei, the natural order and that which is correct. O ka pono a me ka pololei, meaning this is the pono, and this is what is right. This is a natural order, and this is what is right. So, very briefly, because on the link that was sent to all of you about this story about PeleʻAilaʻAu, it explains in much more detail. So there is much to do because somebody talked about ʻAILAʻAU, and ʻAILAʻAU being the god of fire in Hawaii. In truth, ʻAILAʻAU was a kahu, a caretaker for the fire goddess Pele. But if you know the stories of Pele and Kamapuaʻa, that was her lover. Pele and LOHIAU, that was also her lover. Pele and Paua, that was also her lover. Pele and Ohia, she wanted him to be her lover. So what you can assess in the story of Pele and, of course, ʻAILAʻAU, although he was a kahu for Pele, he was also someone very dear and beloved of Pele. And so when you're in a relationship, not necessarily does everything flow smoothly. There's, of course, some ups and downs, right? So in this story about ʻAILAʻAU, when ʻAILAʻAU ran away because he saw the fires of Pele, that could have been an allusion to reflect him running away from her anger. The anger because Pele, being of a fiery character, has a great deal of passion. And it was that passion that ʻAILAʻAU saw that made him run from the fires of Pele. Well, remember now, ʻAILAʻAU is the kahu, not the akua. Pele is the akua o Keʻahi. And so even in this relationship, they must, in their lineal and inherited kuleana responsibilities, serve the akua, who is, of course, the fire goddess Pele. Now, Pele has two legions of kahu. And these kahu fall under two names. All the male kahu Pele together were known as the AHILAPALAPA of Pele. AHILAPALAPA o Pele. The female kahu Pele together were known by the name ʻŌPØUKUUKU o Pele. So she had these male kahu who, of course, took care of those things endearing to Pele. And then she had the female kahu who took care of those wahine things like you do in your sisterhood, personal to the fire goddess Pele. Now, the names given to them reflect her relationship with them. For example, the burning fires, the burning fires, the AHILAPALAPA being the men, because she could reflect her passion, and of course, much of it was hoʻoipoipo. And then you have the ʻŌPØUKUUKU, those of no consequence. Well, truthfully, you're familiar with the word pupuka. And in our tradition, when you see a child, when you say pupuka, which means terribly ugly, you're actually blessing the child with protection. Bearing that in mind, the ʻŌPØUKUUku, much like the word pupuka, was a blessing or a intent of the work that these kahu, kaula, and haka did on behalf of Pele. So I wanted to share this story because it is a reflection of the ʻŌLELO noʻeau i ka ʻŌLELO keola and i ka ʻŌLELO kamake. You have to be very careful. If you're going to tell these stories, make sure you know and understand them accurately and precisely. Do not tell these stories if you're guessing or you're making up things. That's really, really important. Mai ho'opunipuni. Don't make up bullshit. ʻŌLELO me ka oia i'o. Speak with truth. And the truth of this mo'o'olelo is already in the ʻŌLELO kupuna. Aya i ka ʻŌLELO kupuna ka oia i'o. It is already in their words, the truth of this story. That Pele is the goddess and ʻAILAʻAU is her kahu. Her kahu. Well, today people are saying that ʻAILAʻAU was a god. Well, according to the words of our kupuna, and let's set it straight, he was the kahu mua, the first kahu of the AHILAPALAPA. So what we can also gauge from the story is the time of ʻAILAʻAU is the time before KAMAPUAʻA, LOHIAU, Paua, and others. So the story, alludes to that ʻAILAʻAU, her first kahu, was also perhaps one of her first lovers, as we know with the stories of Pele. So to understand the story in its totality, like a puzzle, you have to piece all of these fragments to complete the whole of the story of Pele and ʻAILAʻAU. The name PeleʻAilaʻAu, like Pele ai lehua, Pele ai honua, Pele honua mea, first proclaim the name of the goddess Pele. What comes after her name is the epithet, the descriptive part of the characteristic connected to the person of that name that is being spoken of. For example, Pele, the eater of lehua blossoms. Pele, the eater of land. Pele, the eater of trees. Pele, of the red earth. When the volcano erupts and everything has that red glow. The honua mea of Pele. So, knowing stories in their totality comes with a lot of responsibility. The word kuleana is not only responsibility, but inherent lineal responsibility. As my grandmother would say, he iwi, of the same bones, he i'o, of the same flesh, he koko, of the same blood. So, what does that tell you in the relationship of the kahu and kuleana? Well, not everybody could become a kahu of the goddess Pele. Not everyone could conduct her sacred ceremonies or her sacred rituals. Not everyone had that authority, and not everyone could do that it needed to be people of the same lineage and the same bloodline. You see? With like today, that is not your kuleana to tell those stories if you are not of that lineage and that bloodline. Now, this is the old tradition, the old kapu, the kapu of our akua, and how it's connected to these people that served the elder usually as kahu, kaula, and haka for the ceremonies and the protocols. And this is important to remember. Aya I ka'olelo keola in the language, when it is recited correctly, is life. Aya I ka'olelo kamake, but when it is recited or spoken incorrectly, it could bring death or catastrophe. And if it is not your kuleana, your lineal birthright, why are we talking about these things? Why is it important that everybody put it on Facebook? It's not your kuleana. It belongs to the people whose lineages continue to be connected to the fire goddess Pele. But social media makes everybody an expert on everything. And no, sadly, you're not. These are sacred things that belong to those kahu, those kaula, those haka, those kahuna, that are of that lineage and of that tradition of Pele. So to honor that tradition, ʻIka'olelo keola, ʻIka'olelo kamake. Be careful what you utter from your mouth and what you could conjure if there is untruths. For example, the ʻŌLELO, the language, you have to know the correct ʻŌLELO of the pule. The pule to begin the ceremony. You have to know the ʻŌLELO of the kahea to call the goddess. You have to know the pule, or the prayer, ho'oponopono, to set everything in its proper place. You have to know the pule to return the goddess and end the ceremony. You have to know, through the ʻŌLELO, the right color in which the offerings are made. You have to know the right symbols that will decorate that kapa. You have to know where, when, and how to do the ceremony. You have to know the ho'ailona. There is everything that you have to know that is connected to the language. So my advice, stop making up bullshit. If you don't know, there is a good reason why the akua has it that you don't know. And if you don't know, perhaps you're not supposed to know. There are people already designated by the akua who know, understand, and can speak to these traditions. Ko ke akua haʻia mio. You see, the akua chooses these people. They don't choose themselves. You cannot choose yourself. The akua, because of their lineage, legacy, have that responsibility. It is their birthright. And only they can hold these sacred kuleana as kahu, kaula, haka, and kahuna for the goddess Pele or any other akua. Ko ke akua haʻia mio, the akua sets that. Now, once these people have been chosen, again through birthright and lineage and responsibility, ko ke kahuna ha'ikupua, they now become the kahu and direct the religious ceremonies or the spiritual ceremonies in connection to the akua. It is their kuleana. Truthfully, it is their kuleana. So it's very important to remember that Manakaleo, the voice, has a great deal of power. Well, the voice has a great deal of power because the voice is the ʻŌLELO. And these sacred words, mai kawa kahikohiko, from very ancient time, mai ke ki nohi nohi, from the very emergence of life, mai ke kumulipo, from our genealogy chant, mai KANE huli honua, and keaka huli lani, a me ke keiki ala ua, ka papa ia laka, from that very ancient time, the emergence of mankind, from the time of KANE huli honua and his wahine, keaka huli lani, and their child, a son, ka papa ia laka. From that very ancient time, these things have been set into a natural order of pono. Birthright, lineage, responsibility. Now remember, KANE huli honua and keaka huli lani and their son Kapapa Ialaka, they predate Papa and Wakea. They are the ancestors of Papa and Wakea. They are the ancestors of Poliahu, Lilinoi, Waiau, Kahopokane. These ancient ancestors and their descendants had the lineage and the birthright to carry on these responsibilities. It would not be someone out of the bloodline, I promise you this. It has to be someone who bears the same flesh, bones, and blood. That would be the kahu, or the kaula, or the haka, for the akua. It is no one else. So writing the story, PeleʻAilaʻAu, I'm sharing with you the stories that I know and understand that came from my teachers, the kupuna that raised me, because my kupuna come from He'eia. He'eia, on the island of Oahu, is where the Pele family lived before the migration during the mokuhia to the big island of Hawaii. So the stories are deep and ingrained in the kupuna of He'eia. These stories have been handed down from generation to generation. The kupuna of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa are KANE huli honua, Keaka huli lani, and Kapapa Ialaka. Because when you come to what people know as KANE Ohebe, that is Kai o Malulani. That is an ancient crater. And what remains is the aftermath of years and years and years of what now is that protected be, misnamed Kaneohebe, Kai o Malulani. Kai o Malulani. Malulani being one of the sisters of Pele. And there are places in He'eia that reflect that ancient time when these akua wahine resided in the ahupua'a of He'eia. Also, Haumea dwelt in He'eia as Papa and Vakea. So He'eia, connected to these Akua, is the emergence, the movement. Everything begins, and that is why that is named for this very sacred place. Remember, when Ke'au Mele Mele and the legion of Akua left KANE Hunamoku, the sacred land of KANE, KANE Kapo'ohuna Kapu Ikeauli, they were directed to He'eia. And from He'eia, all the ancient Akua moved on to where they reside today. This ancient mythical, being historical place connected to all the Akua of Hawaii. KANE, Ku, Lono, Kanaloa, the Pukui Akua resided in He'eia. So we need to be very cautious of the things we say and don't ho'opuni, but speak the truth in reflecting our kupuna kahiko. Getting the story straight is very, very important. Now, ina make o kou e ho'olohe mai nei. Ina ale make no o kou e ho'olohe heke no ke ho'okuli. Nau no ke kaho, nau no ke koho, nau no ke koho i ka pono a me ka polo lei. E pile ana no ke ia mele a me ke ia mo'oʻolelo. See, you don't have to listen to me. If you like, listen, listen. But if you choose to play deaf, that's your choice. Reflecting the story of ʻAILAʻAU, the order and also the correctness. And there is much, much more that has already been posted on my Facebook page about this story. There's so much, much more. And I'm not even done telling this story about the many, many traditions associated with Pele as they began here in He'eia. We will continue this talk, but this is the mo'o'olelo behind the words of this mele called PeleʻAilaʻAu. Pele with the epithet, which is ʻAILAʻAU, the eater of the forest. PeleʻAilaʻAu me ke ahi o ka lua. Pele consuming the forest with the fires of the pit. A oia ho'i ha. That is the way it is. He mo'olelo ke ia, no ke ia mau inoa o kawahine Pele, ke akua wahine, o ia ho'i o PeleʻAiLehua, PeleʻAiHonua, Pele honua mea, PeleʻAilaʻAu, o Pele ke akua o Hawaii nei, mai ka wā kā hiko hiko, mai ke kinohi, ke ia akua wahine o Pele. I ko kākou ʻōlelo, e pili ana no na mo'oʻolelo o ke ia akua wahine, mai noho, a ho'opoina, e ʻōlelo kākou me ka pono, e ʻōlelo kākou me ka oia i'o, e ʻōlelo kākou me ka polo lei, mai ʻōlelo me ka ho'opuni. Don't speak and don't make it up if you don't know. Be respectful of the ancient mo'o'olelo and go learn. Go learn from the kupuna that knows. Because I would have more respect if you said to me, I don't know, but I'd like to learn. rather than making it up. And as our kupuna have taught us, ike aku, ike mai, knowledge. When knowledge is shared with you, always remember the teller of that story. Never discount the person that told you the story. Never discount the person that gave you that enlightenment. As you remember their names in the mo'o'olelo and the mo'okuauhau, you give them honor. You honor the story, and you honor yourself being connected to the story and the storyteller. But when you discount all of that, trust me, your place will also be discounted. And that is Mele and Mo'o'olelo for today regarding the song PeleʻAilaʻAU. Hewehewe a kamanao ki ia kupuna. Nakawahano o na po e kupuna o ka wāmāmua ki ia mo'o'olelo. A na uno ka ho'owehewehe no ia o kou. Ale ke ia he mea ho ike ike, he mea ho'owehewehe a kamanao e pile ana no ke ia inoa o ʻAILAʻAU. All right, everybody, aloha a hui hou.